Hello, my name is Aida Calderon. This is my informative speech on Harriet Tubman. This is my verbal citation and my outline, and this is my audience. Okay. So people usually joke about putting someone's picture next to a word in the dictionary that might describe the person, and it's usually funny or a joke. But today I want to talk about who I would put next to the word resilient. And I can't think of anybody who embodies the word resilient better than Harriet Tubman does. And today I'm going to cover 3 topics that are going to help describe why I would choose Harriet Tubman. And I'll begin by telling you about Harriet Tubman's early life as well as her escape from slavery. Then I'll talk to you about her work with the Underground Service and her service in the Civil War. And lastly, I'll end by telling you about Harriet Tubman's last years and the legacy that she left behind. Let me start by telling you about Harriet Tubman's early life and her escape from slavery. Harriet Tubman was born into slavery. She was one of 11 children born to Benjamin Ross and Harriet Green. And when she was 13 years old, she suffered a injury that caused her to have a disability for the rest of her life. What happened is she had gone into a store and there was a slaveholder trying to capture a slave that was trying to escape. He asked Harriet Tubman to tie him down, but she refused. And as the slave managed to escape and go out the door, the slaveholder threw a 2-pound weight that ended up hitting Harriet Tubman in the head. It caused her to have seizures because it fractured her skull, and she ended up having debilitating headaches. But to her, it was a divine intervention, because she says after this is when she started to see religious visions, and it helped her find her path to find and help people to escape from slavery. So when she was 27 years old, she escaped from her slaveholder. She was married and had asked her husband to go along with her, but he decided not to. And so she decided that she was going to go back for him after she had saved enough money. And she did 2 years later, only to find out that he had been remarried. However, instead of letting that bring her down, she looked for another family that was also looking to escape from slavery. And as Carolyn Stewart stated in an article in American Interest, even amid grief that would make others feel helpless, Harriet responded to the indifferent cruelty of life as she did the intentional brutality of slaveholders by focusing on what she could do rather than what she had lost. And here's a picture of Harriet Tubman as a young lady. We don't know exactly when this picture was taken, but it's the latest picture that was found very recently of her. Next, I'm going to talk about Harriet Tubman's work with the Underground Railroad as well as her service during the Civil War. So 1 year after Harriet Tubman's escape, she started working for the Underground Railroad. And here's a picture of the Underground Railroad. These are the different paths people took, but it's most commonly known that she took most of her people to Canada because it was the safest place at that time. And during her work for the Underground Railroad, she managed to rescue over 300 slaves in a span of 15 years. After the 15 years is when the Civil War had begun, and during that time she served the Union Army as a nurse, a guide, and even a spy. And according to Eugene L. Meyer in a Crisis article, when abolitionist John Brown first met Harriet Tubman, so impressed with her was he that he referred to her as the General, and after their meeting described her in a letter to his son John Jr. using the masculine gender. He is the most of a man, naturally, that I have ever met. During the Civil War, she actually even worked and was the first woman to lead a U.S. military raid in which 700 slaves were brought to freedom. Lastly, I want to talk about Harriet Tubman's last years and legacy. At the age of 76, Harriet Tubman purchased 25 acres of land to be used as a refuge for those unable to take care of themselves. It wasn't enough for her just to help people escape from slavery, she helped them afterwards too. And as acknowledged by Sandra Edmonds' crew in the Journal of Housing and Community Development, she didn't just rescue people, she also tried to house and care for the oppressed and the vulnerable, taking them in, teaching them the new skills, identifying their strengths, and providing services aimed at their particular needs. Most importantly, Harriet Tubman promoted self-reliance and self-help as an important privileges of freedom. And here's a picture of a couple of slaves that Harriet Tubman helped. We have Harriet Tubman on the left-hand side, and these are all slaves that she helped bring to freedom. Harriet Tubman is one of the founders of the National Association of Colored Women, so that's another thing she did. And in 1903, Harriet Tubman signed over her home and land to the Thompson Memorial AME Zion Church. And this is the home that she went to when she fell sick as well and passed away in this home as well. And it still exists as a museum now. I covered 3 topics that helped explain why Harriet Tubman is resilient and why I would choose her picture next to that word. And I began by telling you about Harriet Tubman's early life and escape from slavery. Then I discussed her work with the Underground Railroad and her service in the Civil War. And lastly, I ended by telling you about Harriet Tubman's last years and the legacy she left behind. I'm sure that, like me, after learning more about Harriet Tubman, you will not be able to hear the word resilient without thinking of her. Thank you.